How could humanity's first great civilization collapse? Welcome to Collapse, where giants fall. Between the waters of the Tigris and the Euphrates, a legendary civilization rose, defying time and the elements. The Sumerians, masters of the first cities, inventors of writing, builders of an ordered world, laid the foundations of human history. But no empire is eternal. Gradually, their splendor began to crack. From temples once sacred, only ruins eroded by the wind remain. Of kings once all-powerful, only their names engraved in clay bear witness. How could such a visionary people disappear? What secrets buried in the dust of time tell the fall of the first masters of the world? A fascinating story that takes us to the very origins of civilization. But before embarking on a new adventure, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Thank you, and have a good trip. At the edge of what we now call Iraq lies one of the most fertile regions of the ancient world, Mesopotamia. The very name of this vast territory literally means the land between the rivers, referring to the Tigris and the Euphrates. These two waterways travel long distances before pouring into the Persian Gulf, depositing on their passage silt rich in nutrients. In antiquity, this abundance of alluvium promoted the flourishing of cereal cultures on an unprecedented scale, allowing human communities to gradually abandon nomadism in favor of a sedentary lifestyle. To understand the beginnings of the Sumerian civilization, it is essential to examine the pre-Sumerian context and the transition from the Neolithic to the emergence of the very first villages. The Neolithic, spanning approximately from 10,000 to 4,000 BC, is marked by the agricultural revolution. It's the period when hunter-gatherer groups began to cultivate land and raise animals. In Lower Mesopotamia, a region located further south, this change is felt when communities, previously mobile, decide to settle near the banks of the Tigris and the Euphrates. The irregular flooding of these rivers posed a logistical challenge, but also offered soil flooded with silt, hence extremely productive. Irrigation quickly became the main challenge for these populations. In a rather dry climate, mastering water demanded the construction of canals, rudimentary dams, and storage basins. The first human settlements, which took the form of modest villages, concentrated where even a basic irrigation system could be established. Gradually, the necessity to coordinate the distribution of water led to the emergence of more complex social structures. We begin to see clan or village leaders responsible for equitably distributing water resources and managing cereal surpluses. Meanwhile, the rise of agriculture was accompanied by a gradual domestication of various animal species, sheep and goats first, for meat, milk, and wool, followed later by other farm animals. Around 6500 BC begins the Ubaid period, which extends to around 3800 BC. It is a decisive pre-urban phase. Archaeological sites from this period reveal the existence of pottery made on the wheel, more advanced tools, and architecture made of sun-dried mud bricks. These bricks, made from molded clay then dried in the sun, form the basis of many constructions. Archaeologists have found, in some of these villages, the remains of small sanctuaries, which can be considered as the first architectural manifestations of an organized cult. The inhabitants, aware of the vital role of nature, likely worshipped deities associated with fertility, water, and agricultural prosperity. The transition to the Uruk period, around 4000 to 3100 BC, marks a fundamental shift in the history of Mesopotamia, the formation of true city-states. These political entities, sometimes considered the very first in history, developed mainly in Lower Mesopotamia, in the area that would later be called Sumer, in the south of present-day Iraq. In this southern Mesopotamian region, water resources condition demographic expansion. Cities, to function, need a network of canals fed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to irrigate their cereal fields, mainly barley and wheat. The better the social organization, the more the harvests increase, and the more the population concentrates in the same place. This results in the formation of autonomous urban entities, known as city-states. The concept of a city-state refers to a city that, while being relatively small in size, exercises political and economic power over the surrounding territories. In other words, each city-state functions as an independent mini-kingdom, with a local government and its own administration. In Sumer, this mode of organization often relies on two essential poles, the temple and the palace. During this period, there is a strong concentration of populations around a few major cities: Uruk, Ur, Kish, Eridu, and Lagash. With the city of Uruk, the size of human groupings becomes such that we speak of a true urban revolution. Architecture reaches new dimensions, as evidenced by the remains of temples built on elevated platforms. These early structures have sometimes been called embryonic ziggurats, since later in Mesopotamian history, the construction of monumental ziggurats would become an unmistakable marker of the presence of a powerful city. Thousands of people organize around these religious and administrative centers. Specialists estimate that Uruk's population at its peak could reach at least 40,000 inhabitants, a considerable number for the time. Uruk's expansion is partly explained by the need to consolidate control over agricultural lands, but also by the rise of long-distance trade. The inhabitants sought raw materials that were unavailable locally, such as construction wood, stone, obsidian, or metals for making tools and weapons. Commercial exchanges therefore intensify. Caravaneers, river navigators, and merchants established networks that linked the Mesopotamian plain to the mountainous regions of the Zagros and Upper Mesopotamia. Although neighbors, these city-states are independent of one another. Due to their proximity, they often maintain commercial relationships, but they can also engage in military conflicts, each seeking to expand its territory or control a decisive irrigation channel for its agriculture. The development of these inter-regional relationships stimulates technical innovation. The exchanges include not only goods but also ideas. The potter's wheel, which becomes widespread, improves the production of higher quality ceramics and speeds up the shaping of clay containers. In workshops, new decorative patterns are explored and kiln firing techniques are perfected. Moreover, the agricultural surpluses generated by irrigation support a non-farming population: craftsmen, potters, builders, scribes. This division of labor is one of the pillars of emerging social complexity. The emergence of Sumerian city-states is accompanied by a major upheaval, the development of writing. Originally, temple administration used small clay tokens, enclosed in envelopes called bullae, to account for livestock, cereals, or jars of oil in circulation. These bullae were then marked with symbols indicating the type and quantity of objects. Gradually, it became more practical to directly inscribe these symbols on clay tablets, rather than enclosing them in a sealed envelope. This innovation led to a system of pictograms, namely small stylized images representing an object or concept: a cow's head, a jar, a grain of wheat, etc. But over time, the use of cut reeds to trace signs on clay imposed even more stylization.